know why I didn't put this candle on. I got a candle now for some ambience. Can you see it? Well, it's here. Hi, hello, how are you? My name is Sarah from Sarah's Reading Nook, and today I am going to be listing all of the books that I read in 2020 that were published this year. So just a little disclaimer, you might hear some noise in the background, and that is because there's someone cooking in the kitchen. Also, while we're here, please don't forget to give this video a like and also to subscribe if you like what you see for more videos. During the month of December, we are participating in Bookmas 2020, and so we have videos every Wednesday, every Friday, and even on Sundays. So don't forget to put your bell notification on so that you get notified whenever we have a new video. Now, 2020 was a good reading year for myself, despite 2020. And I thought it would be nice to kind of have a casual sit-down video. I know with new releases, it can be difficult to tell, which ones were very good. Sometimes you go on to Goodreads and it's overwhelming. There are so many books. There are book titles that may not interest you in the category, in the genre that you want to read. So now would be a perfect time to, in the comments box, let me know some of the new releases that you read in 2020, some of the more notable ones. So the current app that I am using to catalog all of my reading is Goodreads, and that may switch in the future, not really sure. And we're going to go in chronological order from books that I read earliest in 2020 to this month. So you can tell that at the beginning of the year, I wasn't really on it with new releases because I don't have a 2020 book until... I can definitely see that I was catching up on 2019 in the first few months. Okay, so the first book that I found was a Top Shelf Society book club pick. So Top Shelf Society is the book club that I co-host along with Kristen, Laura, Angela, Yesenia, Stephanie, and yeah, that is everyone. So we had a vote and we ended up choosing Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown. I'm going to be talking more about this book later on. If you want a more in-depth, more thorough discussion on it, we actually have a live show and you can click on the link right here. Now, I gave this book 5 stars, and the book is a YA fantasy, magical realism, contemporary. From my understanding, it sort of is somewhere between magical realism and memoir because it does go into her biography. This is a good description that can summarize the plot better than I can. So Echo Brown is a wizard from the East Side where apartments are small and parents suffer addiction to the white rocks. Yet there is magic everywhere. New portals begin to open when Echo transfers to the rich school on the West Side, and an insightful teacher becomes a pivotal mentor. And so each day, Echo travels between 2 worlds, leaving her brothers, her friends, and a piece of herself behind on the East Side. You really see how much Echo cares for her family, and also likewise how her family cares for her as well, and how she is able to access resources such as educational resources, how she's able to do well in school despite what's going on around her, her mentorship, and also what her family dynamics are. And of course, there was a big infusion of the magical realism portion as well. I love when you have such high expectations for a book and it ends up like exceeding it. And I think that this one somehow managed to do that. Echo Brown is such a brilliant writer, but also if you look into her biography, she also does amazing like TED Talks as well. And she has such an amazing way of like captivating her audience, both in her written work and also during her talks. So yeah, I gave that book 5 stars, and I will be talking about it more later on during Bookmas. So my cat Olivia, she just came into my office and she's sitting down by the door. Okay. A lot of the time she wants to cuddle, but today she just wants to like supervise everything that's going on. I thought I'd have more books than this. So the next book I read that was a new release was The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. And if this cover looks familiar to you, it's been all over Bookstagram. It's been all over BookTube. People love this book. And what do you know? It was a Top Shelf Society pick for our book club. And again, we do have a discussion video that you can click the link on. I will say it was a wonderful discussion, but things just kind of flipped towards the end. And I was a little bit shocked to see what others thought about this book. I wasn't surprised that everyone really loved this book, but some maybe more than others. Now, in terms of my opinion about this book, so basically you have Linus Baker, and he is a social worker involved in overlooking the care of magical youth, and specifically he gets a request to go to the house in the Cerulean Sea to look at this particular group of children. Of course, at first in the book, he has all of these sort of ideas of what the children will be like, and also caring for them. And unsurprisingly, he learns more about them and really starts to care for them, and vice versa. Now, I did give this book a 4-star rating, and I'll kind of explain why I didn't give higher. I did enjoy it. I thought it was really good, and I thought it was adorable. And this whole idea about acceptance, prejudice, etc., etc., I think that those are very good themes for books. Surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, if you already know this, but it is a fantasy fiction, not surprising, but it is actually adult fiction and YA, where initially I thought that this was going to be a children's book. And we do talk about that quite a bit in our discussion group, but there are also some sort of heavy themes. However, I thought that the book was really sweet and hopeful. And should I say this part? I do want to be honest. It did feel a little forceful at times in terms of the themes that it was portraying in the book. And at one point, it sort of felt like I was reading lessons. I think that they are warranted. I still thought that it was a great book, and I had a lot of fun reading it. And as with any book, look at the content warning, see if this book is something that you would enjoy reading, and also checking out our discussion on the book from the Top Shelf Society, which I believe I have linked already. This next book that I read... Okay, my books fell, and I just put them back up, and I will fix them later. Okay, but this next book is a book that has been behind me for all the Bookmas videos. Can you guess? The next book I read was Mexican Gothic, again a Top Shelf Society book club pick, by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. Now, I have some reading vlogs, and also I have made 2 reading vlogs on my experience reading this book, and we also discussed this at the Top Shelf Society. I don't want to talk too much about this book, but I haven't really summarized at this point what my feelings towards this book were. On my channel, at least. At the Top Shelf, they all know. So, Mexican Gothic came out June the 30th of 2020. And we read this book for the Top Shelf Society in October. I'm just gonna hug it. It is so beautiful. Now, the premise behind this book is basically that Noemi, who is the main character, she gets a really strange, odd letter that is written to her by her cousin. And you can even read a bit of that letter on the book jacket. It says, "He is trying to poison me. You must come for me, Noemi. You have to save me." So of course, being a good cousin, she sees this. She's like, what is going on? And you see Noemi go off to High Place and try and figure out exactly what is happening with her cousin. I would describe this book as a gothic. Later on feels more like a horror. Now, the relevance in 2020. Okay, this book was everywhere. It was on Bookstagram. It was on Book Twitter. It was on BookTube. It's on all the book stuff. In all the bookstores. I'm sure that this was there, highlighted, but I didn't go to any bookstores this year because I already don't like to shop. No issues if you do. No issues if you do. And with everything going on this year, I did a lot of audiobooks. I did order this book online, because after I read the audiobook, I loved it so much, I also got this. That never happens, okay? You might be hearing also that people were divided on this book. And let me tell you, they were. A lot of people fell into the I loved it. And then there was another camp that I found that really didn't like it. And a whole other one that was just like confused. I don't want to give too much away, but there are some like very strange elements, commentary, themes surrounding like mortality. And I don't want to give a big spoiler away, so I won't go over another theme. But again, you know, look at the trigger warnings, see if this is something that you would enjoy. Hello? Olivia really liked it. And I really, really liked it as well. I gave it 5 stars. That's all I'm going to say for now. And I'm so happy that the Top Shelf Society, that our members decided to read this book, because it just, to me, it was the perfect thing for me to read in October. Okay, the next book I read, okay, I haven't talked about this one yet in a wrap-up because I didn't do an October or a November wrap-up. Okay, so the next book is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This was published in May of 2020. And how did I hear about this book? Okay, since May, I was hearing just like so much excitement about her book. And I remember lots of people loving The Poet X, and I hadn't read her books. I don't know why. And then as the year went, more and more people were talking about it. And so I was just like, I gotta read this book. I will say that top shelfer Isenia, who I will link either above or in the description, she was really the person that got me to read this book because she just loved it so much. And I can't believe I waited all the way until November to read it. So this book, it starts with a plane crash that happens. And the reaction to the plane crash and how the book sort of progresses, that is narrated by 2 different girls. So the 2 girls are Yahaira and Camino. I think that this book just does like such an amazing job of showing 2 different perspectives, what it is like to discover a secret that is so big. There's just so much that goes on, showing sort of a difference in culture, but also it shows a sort of almost tangible similarity between the 2 girls. I thought it was so good. When I initially finished it, I gave it about 4.3, 4.4 stars, but I've just been thinking about it quite a bit since I read it. I had the audiobook and I was just like doing different tasks throughout my home, and I would have the audiobook on, and I loved the audiobook. It was so good. The narration was awesome, and it's definitely a book that like I'm so happy that I read. If you've read it, let me know what you think. I think it should definitely be a book that's on your radar. It is 432 pages, but it felt much shorter. Like I didn't have the physical book to go off of, but I listened to it in a few sittings. Okay, the next I read Homebody by Rupi Kaur. Highly anticipated, came out November 17th of 2020. And first, let's just look at the cover. Beautiful, like tan, peachy color with green, and the words Homebody written. Now, this book is a collection of poems, and it also displays Rupi's line drawings as well. And as soon as I read one of her books, I'm like ready for the next one to come out. She just writes in such a beautiful way that I definitely love. And some themes that are in this book are acceptance, community, family, love, and embracing change. Now, I don't want to spoil it, but there is one poem in here in particular that really blew me away. And it was a poem that was written about her father and her father's work ethic and what sort of impression that had on her as a child. Like, you just have to read it, because I could just talk about it and I will not do it justice. And it was just so lovely to read her book. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because although I did take away quite a bit of poems, there were still quite a few that I just didn't for whatever reason. And sometimes too, like, poetry can be really sort of personal and whatever speaks to you at the time. It can be very timely as well, but still, I thought it was amazing, and I think that you should read it. I definitely recommend. Okay, and the last book that I read that was published in 2020 was I'll Fly Away by Rudy Francisco. I've read one prior poetry book by him, and it was just so amazing, called Helium. That was published in 2017, and I love that book so much, I just like ordered it for my friends. So his latest poetry book goes over several different themes. There's self-discovery, social commentary, love, processing emotions, police brutality. So it can be quite heavy at times. This book was on my radar really because of Helium from before. But one of the cool things about this book is that Rudy inserts different words that he comes up with. And these terms do not exist in the English language, but they're to represent something that ought to have a noun. For instance, felinter, I don't know how to pronounce it because I'm just reading off of Goodreads right now. But the definition is someone who finds joy in things that people believe to be mundane. So he presents like various different terms throughout. And of course, he does an excellent job with all of his poems. In terms of my rating for this book, I gave it a 5-star rated, absolutely loved it. And this is a book that I definitely will be referencing over and over and over again. If you're interested in his works, please check out Helium. And I am just finishing up a book right now. The book is A Promised Land by Barack Obama. I don't know what to say about it. So A Promised Land is just beautifully written, beautifully narrated. Barack Obama does narrate it. It's such a perfect account of his time in office. And this is only volume 1. And it's like 700 and something pages. I don't know where it's gonna go, but I do because I kept up with the news. It's just, how can you not? It's Barack Obama. At the point where I am, he talks about the campaign, and he like talks about his time in office as well, but he doesn't just give like a picture of his successes. He talks about difficulties that he's faced, difficulties with communication with various groups of individuals, and sort of how to compromise and try to find a common path. And he talks about times where it worked, times where it didn't, and it just feels really honest. I am happy that this is just volume 1 because I will be looking forward to volume 2. I'm about halfway through at this point, and I'm just completely blown away. Like, there's not much I can say about it. I'm just kind of awestruck and like really thankful that it exists. So I'm gonna end on that note. Those are all the books in 2020 that I have at this point read. There's a tiny bit more left in 2020, but literally I have A Little Life and A Promised Land to finish, and they're big books. These are like 700 plus, so that's big for me. Let me know if any of these titles sound interesting to you, if you've read any. I would love to hear you talk about it in the comments below. And now the Portuguese word of the day. The Portuguese word of the day is palavra. Palavra. Palavra means word. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to, and also make sure that your notifications are on. Again, we would love to have you here, and we are looking forward to the next bit of Bookmas because we have some really cool and really fun videos that are coming out. And yeah, that is everything for today. Bye!